computer because welcome to the workshop about the Creativity Sandbox, and thank you for my live participant Bond. And I know, Jonathan, you're going to watch the recording, and I hopefully there are going to be some others as well. But Bond and I have been chatting about the sandbox, and you and I have had some conversations. Jonathan, you and I have had the conversations about the sandbox. But and I'm going to kind of go over the overview of how the sandbox has come into being and what it is and why it works. It's actually become this kind of very powerful, life-changing thing, at least in some cases. So just by way of, because I know Bond in particular is into AI, but I know you are too, Jonathan, and whoever else. I'm using an AI platform you can see way up in the corner on the tab, beautiful.ai, which I got a demo of. And, so this graphic was created with Dolly, but inside of beautiful.ai. And so this is a slide presentation platform that I'm using for the presentation. So creativity is, I think, underrated, even though people have a love for it. And it really has a dynamic, you could even say magical skill that comes from practice. And like a lot of people, my personal experience has been that practice and being consistent with it is hard to come by, even though it is available 24/7. So what I've started calling myself is a catalyst for creative play and practice, and we'll get into the aspects of how important play and practice are to the cultivation of creativity and kind of awakening the practice and the exercising the muscles of the creative thing that you want to do. But that's what the Creativity Sandbox is designed for. One of the things that we found in doing the two cohorts that we've done so far is that it actually ripples out. So it isn't just that you get to paint more or do your poetry more or do your music more or whatever your creative thing is, that your whole life gets better. And there's a video clip that I used during the first week. So the Sandbox is a 3-week program. The first week is onboarding, organization, kind of, I call it getting set up for success, getting clear about what you're going to practice every day for 14 days. And then the second 2 weeks are actually a sprint where we do whatever the creative thing is we decide to do for 14 days to, just like going to the gym, exercise that muscle and build up the capability. And again, a quickie, this was created in 5 minutes, an AI graphic about before and after. But and I have a video of this guy, Rick Rubin, who's a legendary record producer, talking about when you do a creative thing on a regular basis, your whole life gets better. This was thrown in by beautiful.ai, but I kept it. The artist is nothing without the gift, but the gift is nothing if you don't do the work. So how do you do the work? This is really what we're here for today. Through the process of, and it's been a couple of years developing this container that I call the Creativity Sandbox, I identified that there are really 3 main components of it that work together, each as an essential element in order to bring more creative joy into our lives. The first is what I call expressing creative chutzpah. So it takes some guts, it takes some courage to play creatively, even though play is, in the sandbox sense, just having fun and reconnecting to the childhood freedom that we had when we finger painted or when we played on a playground. I have some inspirations called the Brothers Corn, who are music creativity specialists. And they love this expression, which has been around, but dare to suck. So you have to be willing to play and experiment and have fun and not be judgmental about creating masterpieces or, God forbid, trying to think it could be perfect. So that playful expression of creative chutzpah is really the first fundamental component. The second fundamental component is not trying to do it alone. I have a yoga teacher who likes to say, only you can do it, but you can't do it alone. And so when you do it in a group, you get the encouragement You actually serve other people by being an example, and this concept of creating to serve. All of this is stuff we go into in more depth during that first week of kind of onboarding. And you get feedback and you have conversations. And so it becomes kind of this collaborative experience. And then the third piece is that, like I said before, you cultivate a practice. So actually, I find that just the power, because I participate also, I don't just lead it. So I I've made amazing progress at kind of playing the piano and being able to sing with it. And that actually is something that, as I said before, kind of likes my whole life, makes my whole life better, because I now know I can do a 14-day commitment, even though in neither case was I perfect. Again, it's not about being perfect. It's about getting to the gym enough that you make a difference for yourself. Um, and anyway, I can bring that to other places, because if I can do something consistently for 14 days creatively, I can show up and do my stretching every day, or do exercise and so forth. So, but this isn't all. So this is the beginning of my sandbox graphic. I didn't do a build for each one, but here we go. Here's the full picture. So importantly is that when you do creative chutzpah and participate in community, you can get new friends. When you participate in community and cultivate a practice by doing that exercise, by exercising that muscle, there's a level of accountability that is really powerful. And when you dare to suck and are willing to have fun and just do stuff in a consistent way by cultivating a practice, kind of little miracles happens. Out of the happy accidents concept gets ignited. So there's a real alchemy here, and then the outer pieces of, by participating in community, you get support, you can collaborate, and there's a great power in this phrase of showing your face, which is why I'm really into the video part. When you express creative chutzpah, you have the fun of playing and exploring and experimenting and being curious. It becomes an adventure. And that embracing the journey then feeds into the practice. And like I've been saying, you learn that you can build muscles, you can become consistent, and there's a level of discipline that happens. So, Bond, any questions about that? Is this clear? This is the overview of how this
Yeah,
thing
it's pretty
works.
clear. I'm particularly drawn to the consistency and discipline.
That are
Because
hard for us. It's
those are
hard for
things
us
that
to
I
do.
do not have.
Yeah.
Well, I
Well,
suppose I have them, but I don't know where they are.
you got to, it's just like if you've never done a push up, you start putting your knees on the ground and do a half a push up, and over time it builds up. But yeah, so that I like that you're into that, because I tell you, it's one of the things that I love. So that's the overview of the framework. Um, you know, when we do the onboarding the first week of the sandbox program, I do interactive exercises where you journal and so forth. But I think that it's just worth taking a moment to reflect on how you can do things differently, because we know that if you keep doing it the same way, that nothing changes. And I already said only you can do it, and you can't do it alone. So that, I don't know, any comments or reflections that you have when you think about the opportunity to dive in, or the opportunity to change things and do things differently?
Um, yeah, I just feel like I'm kind of stuck. So that's kind of why I'm here,
Cool.
is
Well, that's
because I would like to become unstuck. And I have a hard time pulling the trigger.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
So
So I'll tell you the truth is that there, and I think actually it might be the next slide is about, yeah, creative blocks. I mean, it, I've had the experience myself, certainly, and in both cohorts, there were participants that had the experience of being so stuck that they didn't really show up for the practice. Be completely candid. It's not a small ask. This was mostly generated by AI, to be honest, in terms of these are things that you can do regardless of whether you participate in the sandbox. But the collaborative community piece was the one that I put in. Um, oops, I didn't mean to change the
so
slide.
what, if I can ask, what questions What sort of language did you use to get AI to create this for you?
So the beautiful AI application, I told it, I don't remember the details of the prompt, but that I wanted to do a presentation about the power of creativity.
Oh,
And it generated a whole bunch of slides and other content, most of which I've deleted and put in my own content.
uh-huh.
But it's a pretty impressive program. They've been doing presentation software for a long time, and now so it's not just an AI first application. It's a mature presentation platform that they've now enhanced with AI. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
it did a whole bunch of
That's pretty,
slides
that's pretty impressive.
just from a vague concept. Yeah, so I also thought that I would offer, whether or not you decide to do the sandbox, the books that have been the biggest inspiration to me are these four here. The War of Art with Stephen Pressfield. When you talk about being stuck, that is the book I would recommend. It's a teeny little book. It's just like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know, they're pithy little short blurbs, but it's all about what he calls resistance, which he
Oh,
as a
yeah.
longtime writer has experienced, and basically says all artists, all creators have to face resistance. It's part of the path. And it is part of our curriculum in terms of what I do in the onboarding week, is to talk about resistance and have you journal about your resistance and invite you to embrace the resistance. Because it's not like we can, any more than we can quiet our mind by saying shut up. It is going to be there. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be the feeling of stuckness. It's not like we can wave a magic wand and boom, it's gone. But by working with it and making friends with it and welcoming it to be part of the journey, but taking action anyway, that's the point. It's like you just keep taking action, even if you're afraid, even if you're concerned that your poetry might not be great, or whatever the thing is.
What? Yeah.
Um, yeah, and The Practice by Seth Godin is a book that I'm currently reading, but is totally aligned with the Creativity Sandbox. And the subtitle, I believe, is Shipping Creative Work. And it's about the idea that you don't just practice it, you put it out into public. There's Austin Kleon, who's over on this side. One of his books is Show Your Work, and he advocates for putting it out into the world. And in the video context, I like Show Your Face, all of which is to say it's about shipping the creative work, to use Seth Godin, or putting it out into the world. And you do inspire other people just by being creative. And that in itself is a kind of service. I also love Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, and recommend her TED Talk as well. She has a one about following up on Eat, Pray, Love, and what the heck is she going to do? And Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, which is about morning pages and the whole creative process, is really a classic in this domain.
That I've done, The Artist's Way.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and
Um,
Austin Kleon, I mentioned, he's got these three little books: uh, Show Your Work, Keep Going, and Steal Like an Artist was the first one. But they're also really little pithy books. And Ali Abdaal is not directly in the creativity space. He's more productivity, but he's got a new book called Feel Good Productivity that I'm also reading, and a YouTube channel with lots of really interesting, fun stuff. So,
Great
bottom line,
resources.
unleashing creativity leads to a better life and enhanced self-esteem. And what we need is containers like the sandbox, whether you use mine or not, that spark the playful expression of creative chutzpah, get the encouragement and accountability that people need by working together, and help you exercise that muscle and cultivate an ongoing practice. So you and I can keep chatting, but I think I'll stop the recording. And anybody that's watching, contact me directly. I'm happy to have a one-on-one session like Bond and I are going to have now, and talk about whatever. But I'm happy to hear what your challenges are. And if you're interested, we can talk about the sandbox. And if you just want to get to know each other, I welcome your inquiry. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again for being here today, Bond.
You're very welcome, John. Thank you for being here. This is recorded, right? So I don't have my phone. I was going to take notes of the books and stuff, but
I
I
just
can,
stopped recording, but the whole
no, but I mean,
presentation was recorded, yes. And
yeah, so I
I'll
can,
post it to the event,
okay,
the same page where you register.
so I can go look at it and reference the stuff that you recommended in terms of books and
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
And also the Venn diagram, I really like,
you do good. That's good feedback because it's something that I've enjoyed developing, and it's come out of having done the two previous cohorts. Uh, yeah, and it just seems like, yeah, this is what works.
so describe to me in a little more detail what this sandbox is like, the sandbox.
So
You say
there's
it's a 2 week or it's a
3 week
3 week program.
3 week program. The first week, so and there are two live Zoom sessions every week,
Okay.
which is again, if it flies on the 15th, it'll be a small cohort. Um, so the times can be flexible. What we have done the last time, for example, was Mondays and Thursdays at 10. And so the first week is really an onboarding. It's like a little mini training, if you will, where,
Mhm.
like I said, we journal about our vision, we journal about resistance, and uh, and I work with you as a coach in terms of exactly what do you want to do as a daily practice. The common thing is keep it simple, keep it small. We want you to win. You can always do more. But
Oh, yeah, interesting,
so
good.
figuring out what your commitment is going to be for a daily practice when we start up the following Monday. So Monday and Thursday, the first week, there are two sessions, and you think about what exactly you want to do and kind of like get your commitment together, if you will. And then we do Monday and Thursday kind of like for people to check in and report, have like live feedback. But meanwhile, there's the Circle community, which is the same platform where you register,
Uh-huh.
where during the second 2 weeks you post each day about here's what I did today, here's what I did, and I'll also provide during the onboarding kind of like video coaching. There's software that I recommend in terms of easy ways to record yourself. But so you're only publishing privately, confidentially to our online community, so it's only visible to me and the two other people or whatever it's going to be that
So,
are in the cohort. If you
so
want to
to,
take that more widely and go to Instagram or TikTok or whatever, that's up to you. But and I would encourage it and support it and can give you guidance about that, but that's strictly optional.
so to make the most of that experience, I'm guessing it would be a good idea to have a goal in mind. I mean, goals are something that I struggle with all the time. And my father always used to tell me, Bond, you gotta have goals. And, you
Yeah,
know,
I like the George Harrison song "Any Road," which the chorus is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So
yeah, I like
I'm
that.
in favor of goals, but the main goal here is to develop a creative practice, whatever it is, to engage more with your poetry, and have the experience of doing something with it. And again, we'll figure out what that is
Well,
next week.
I would like to start writing again because,
Well, you
you
can write
know,
every day too. It's like
this
that
was
was
back.
actually one of the participants last time was, and he did some really fun writing. But to write a short poem every day and
Yeah,
read it out loud into the video.
I,
Because
I, I,
I love, poetry lends itself to being spoken, if not
well, it
sung.
lends itself to being spoken, but back in the early aughts, I was in a group called the Panama Poets. I co-founded it, and we called
Cool.
it the Panama Poets because our first meeting was at the Panama Hotel.
In
And
San Rafael, I know it.
and I wrote a lot. We did this for like 3 or 4 years. We would meet every month for a poetry potluck, and there were like 6 or 7 or 8 of us. And And yesterday, I gave somebody a ride to Nevada and we were talking, and she turns out to be a writer and writes poetry. And I said, "Oh, I just found a poem recently about, that I wrote 20 years, 20 fucking years ago."
You found your poem?
I found it.
Oh, you found it.
And then I said, "Okay, well, I'll send it to you." And then, I heard you mention earlier on something about showing your face. And so I put this poem on Facebook. And I don't think I have it here. I'd read it to you if I did. It's about, well, let me see. It's about one such, I can't find it. It's about one such session that we had at Andre's house. And people go, "Oh, you should keep writing poetry." Well, I would like to keep writing poetry, but a lot of the comments that I got from about my poetry was that it was cinematic. The idea was that it kind of, I don't know if you've ever read Billy Collins, but he's one of my favorite poets. And so I'm thinking with this AI stuff, when I first got introduced to this, which was through you, basically, that it would be really interesting to see if I could. I mean, all I've seen in AI so far is static graphic. It's a picture. It creates something for you, but I've never seen anything in motion that's created by AI. And I thought, well, if I could take some of my poetry and animate it in AI, that would be that I'd like to try that, but I don't
And
know.
voice it when you're animating it.
I'm sorry.
And voice it when you're animating it.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know.
That well, there I can point you in the direction of. I mean, there's a couple different things there because there are tools now that are animating images. Like people are creating stuff in Midjourney or in Dolly,
Okay. Oh,
whatever.
in Mid-Journey, you can do that.
Yeah, so that's happening. But then there's lots of also ways to do subtitles.
Over an animation.
Yeah, over whatever.
Well,
You can animate the titles and the background could be animated too, but now I think you're also making life complex.
yeah, well, I can only imagine that this would be a complex process,
Yeah.
but I think
I'm a fan of Descript for the sub. I do a lot of my subtitles when I do videos with Descript, and it has the ability to both it's transcript based. So if you read the poem and then put it into Descript, it
right,
would transcribe it. You could correct
right,
the transcription if it wasn't perfect.
right.
But then that transcript can become subtitles and you can break them down into as many scenes as you want to reposition them and so forth.
But the point is, in the background, I want to have my poem animated based on what I've written in the poem.
You mean have images based on that?
So, this poem that I was telling you about, it's about a meeting that we had at one of our poetry potlucks. And it was about, we were in the house and we were, the pen on paper and serifs and descenders written. And then I can visualize, and believe me, this thought has just occurred to me within the last like 10 minutes of talking to you about taking my poetry and animating it in a way that is creative.
Right.
I've taken the creative step of writing the poem. Now I want to do something with the poetry and I want to
Well,
make it into
yeah. I
some
mean,
kind
you
of a
could
graphic.
even. I mean, so that's a fun. It sounds like a fun project.
Yeah, it does.
You've been experimenting with creating images, so you have some idea what's involved with that.
Yeah, very basically, what
Yeah,
do
I
they
mean,
call it?
and a
Large
sandbox
language?
commitment could just be to like do a graphic and
And
animate it
animate it.
for line by line, like do a line a day and
Yeah.
have a 14 line
No, that was a
edited
past
video
life,
by the
John.
end of 2 weeks.
I don't do lines anymore. Um,
You know what I'm saying. And
I know
I
what you.
get your joke. I don't do them either.
Oh, thank you very much. Um, so there's a cost involved with this, um,
There is.
the
It's not
sandbox, and
inexpensive, but I'll work with you if the money's an issue.
and what is
Uh,
it?
it's 495, but I give $100 off to the first 5 people, so essentially 395.
So 395 for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I'm
I
I'm
think
doing a
it's high value and it's all me. So, again, we can talk about video production, we can talk about social
yeah,
media. I'm open
yeah,
to supporting you because I feel like the people that do the sandbox are my people. I mean, they're not just customers. They're like, I
yeah,
don't know, like I love doing it. It's just sort of like if I can get enough people participating in the sandbox, that's like what I want to do for a living.
yeah. That would be
But anyway,
great.
it's big fun. I enjoy doing it, and it becomes a small, close knit community. When we do the sessions, it's very participatory.
I remember being at the first presentation you gave. How many years ago?
I
At
don't
the
know. I've been
golf
doing
course, somewhere
I've been
at
doing
the
them
golf
since
course
I've
about
been doing at the golf course.
Barrancos, or visual. What do you call it on the golf course? There's
Yeah,
some.
yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. It was at Stone Tree.
You were just deciding then to become a presenter. Of now here you are.
Thank you. That's fun that you were there. Um, that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah, it was a lot of.
Stone Tree has now become private part of the Bay Club.
It
And
was a lot of.
that was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
And I know, and I've been
So
divorced for 10 years, and now it was definitely way
I
before I got divorced. So it might be
was in
20,
a.
it's 15, 20 years ago, probably.
I stage managed a play. I think that your wife was in once upon a time.
Say that again.
I stage managed a play,
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, because
and
she did a
she
lot of
was in
community theater.
it. Anyway, so I'm doing a PRG this afternoon, a completely different topic.
Well timed.
And
You want me to put the link to there's a whole page and you could see the video of Will.
well, maybe you could send it to me.
Yeah, I can put it in the chat here and you can click on it, or I can email it to you if you prefer.
So put it in, excuse me. So put it in the chat, and can I copy it?
You can just click on it and then it'll open in your browser.
Um, I've got the chat open. I don't
Yeah,
see
hang on.
any.
I didn't put it there yet because I'm looking for
Well, come on, John.
I'm looking for the link.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Now it's there. Did that work?
I am chatting as a guest. Oh, there's the link. Okay. So I can open it up. Who's that guy at the top? Oh, that's you. Um, yeah, okay.
It's a virtual version of me. Yeah. And then it just scroll down a little bit. You can see Will talking about how his life changed.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. I'll and when it says log in, I think I already have credentials for that.
Yeah, you do, because it's the same site as we registered.
Yeah,
You
okay,
registered twice for today, so I could tell you were enthusiastic.
okay. All right, I appreciate that. So I'll give that some serious thought because,
All right,
I
let me
can't,
know. I'm happy to talk to you more about it or whatever. But the idea is to start on Monday, and
yeah.
Will's
Wait, starts,
probably doing it again. He said, I forget. He's almost definitely he's working.
wait, starts on this Monday,
Yeah.
this coming Monday. Okay, well, I got a few hours to consider it, but
Well, it's great that you're
I,
having a PRG, so that's awesome.
yeah, I know. I like
Yeah,
the
so I think
idea.
it says right there on the page $100 off. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
right there.
okay.
Yeah, the discount code fun.
All right, well, that's great, John. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again for being here. It's fun to talk to you about this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later.
Yep.